Oh my God. I don't experiencing of this in my life.
Elena Martinez froze when she saw the woman collapsed on her husband's grave. The sunset cast golden light across the peaceful memorial garden in Miami, but nothing felt peaceful. A heavily pregnant woman knelt there, sobbing as if her world had shattered, her arms wrapped around the marble headstone. "Michael, please come back," the woman cried. "You promised you'd never leave me and our sons." Elena's heart pounded. She stepped closer, reading the name etched in stone. Michael James Martinez, beloved husband, visionary leader, 1975 to 2024. Her husband. Her Michael. The man whose photo still sat on her nightstand. The same man whose private jet had crashed into the Atlantic 1 month ago. The pregnant woman pressed her palms against the grave. "How can I raise our boys alone? How can I tell this baby you're gone? Our boys. This baby." Elena's hands trembled. Who was this woman? And why was she talking about her husband like this? I want you to tell in the comment which type of story you want, and don't forget to watch full video so that you will not miss next one. Share it to 10,000 people. If you're hooked by this shocking revelation, like this video and subscribe where Elena discovers the devastating truth about Michael's double life. Drop a comment telling us, would you confront this woman, or walk away? We read every comment. Elena had visited the memorial garden every week since the funeral. It had become her ritual, bringing fresh lilies, sitting on the stone bench, talking to Michael as if he could still hear her. Today was supposed to be like any other visit. But nothing about today would be ordinary. The evening air smelled of freshly cut grass and jasmine. Birds sang their final songs before nightfall. Other visitors walked quietly between rows of headstones, paying respects to their own loved ones. Elena carried her usual bouquet of white lilies, Michael's favorite, as she made her way down the familiar path. But when she rounded the corner toward his plot, she stopped dead in her tracks. A woman knelt at Michael's grave, her body shaking with sobs so violent they seemed to come from the depths of her soul. She wore a simple blue dress that stretched over her pregnant belly. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, and her face was buried against the cold marble. Elena stood frozen behind a nearby oak tree, her heart racing. She watched as the woman traced Michael's name with her fingers, whispering words Elena couldn't quite hear at first. Then the woman's voice rose, clearer now, desperate. "Michael, you promised me forever. You said we'd grow old together, that you'd teach our sons to be strong men like you. You said this baby," her voice broke, "you said this baby would know your love." Elena felt the world tilt beneath her feet. The lilies slipped from her trembling hands, falling silently onto the grass. Our sons? A baby. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. Perhaps this woman had the wrong grave. Perhaps she was confused in her grief. But no. Elena could see the name clearly from where she stood. Michael James Martinez. Her husband. Her Michael. 15 years. She had been married to Michael for 15 years. 15 years of standing by his side through the building of his tech empire. 15 years of enduring the whispers behind her back, the pitying looks when people learned they had no children. 15 years of fertility treatments, heartbreak, and Michael holding her hand through it all, saying, "You're enough, Elena. Children or no children, you're my world." She had believed him. She had trusted every word. Now rage and confusion swirled in her chest, mixing with a grief so profound it felt like drowning. Elena stepped forward, her heels clicking against the stone path. The sound made the pregnant woman's head snap up. "Excuse me," Elena said, her voice shaking despite her effort to sound controlled. "What are you doing at my husband's grave?" The woman's tear-stained face showed confusion, then defiance. She struggled to her feet, one hand supporting her swollen belly. "Who are you?" she asked, breathing hard. "I should be asking you that question," Elena replied, moving closer. "I'm mourning my husband. What business is that of yours?" The pregnant woman's eyes narrowed. "Your husband. She let out a bitter, broken laugh. Lady, I don't know who you think you are, but Michael was my husband. I'm carrying his third child. We have 2 sons at home waiting for their father who's never coming back. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She reached out to steady herself against the headstone, the same headstone this stranger had been clutching moments before. What? What did you just say? I said Michael was my husband, the woman repeated, tears streaming down her face again. My name is Rachel. We've been together for 6 years. Married for 5. And these, she placed both hands on her belly. These are his children. The memorial garden seemed to spin around Elena. The peaceful evening sounds, the birds, the wind in the trees, became a roaring in her ears. 6 years. 5 years of marriage? While she had been in their penthouse in downtown Miami, planning charity galas and believing in their perfect life. That's impossible, Elena whispered, but even as she said it, doubt crept in. Michael traveled constantly for business. Board meetings. Investor dinners. Weekend conferences. He was always going somewhere, always busy building the empire they'd worked so hard to create. Or had he been building something else entirely? Elena's legs felt weak, but she refused to collapse. Not here. Not in front of this stranger claiming to be married to her husband. She forced herself to breathe slowly, to think clearly despite the chaos in her mind. You're saying you married Michael? Elena asked, her voice steadier now. Michael James Martinez? The tech entrepreneur. Rachel nodded, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Yes. 5 years ago. We had a small ceremony with his closest business partners and a mentor he called his father figure. He said he wanted to keep it private, that public attention would put me and the boys at risk. Elena's stomach twisted. She knew exactly which mentor Rachel meant. Thomas Chen, Michael's first investor, the man who believed in him when no one else did. Thomas had been at their own wedding 15 years ago. He'd given a toast about Michael finding his perfect partner. Had Thomas known about both of them? Where do you live? Elena asked abruptly. Rachel hesitated, then seemed to decide there was no point in hiding anything anymore. Coral Gables. A house near the waterway. Michael bought it for us 4 years ago. Coral Gables. Only 20 minutes from their downtown penthouse. All this time, Michael had maintained 2 complete lives, 2 separate worlds, practically in the same city. Elena felt sick. I need to see proof, Elena said, though part of her already believed it. The pain in Rachel's eyes was too raw, too genuine to be fabricated. Rachel reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out her phone. She scrolled through photos, then held it out to Elena. The screen showed a family picture. Rachel, younger and glowing with happiness, sitting next to Michael on a couch. 2 small boys sat between them, both with Michael's distinctive dark eyes and bright smile. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. The boys looked exactly like him. The same dimple in the left cheek. The same thick eyebrows. The same way of tilting their heads slightly when they smiled. Their names are Marcus and Mason, Rachel said softly, looking at the photo. Marcus is 5. Mason just turned 3. Michael was there for both birthdays. He was a good father to them. The word father cut through Elena like a knife. She had grieved for 15 years over her inability to give Michael children. She had endured countless medical procedures, each one ending in disappointment. She had listened to relatives' subtle jabs at family gatherings. She had watched Michael's mother's face fall every time someone asked about grandchildren. And through it all, Michael had children. Sons. A whole family he visited while she waited for him at home. How often did he come to you? Elena asked, the question spilling out before she could stop it. Rachel's face crumpled. Every Tuesday and Wednesday. Sometimes Thursdays too. He'd stay overnight, help put the boys to bed, and leave early the next morning. He said those were his strategy planning days, time he needed away from the office to think. Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The exact days Michael had told Elena he stayed late at the office for executive meetings. The days he'd come home exhausted, kissing her forehead and heading straight to shower before bed. She'd never questioned it. Why would she? She'd trusted him completely. "Did you know about me?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rachel shook her head vigorously. "No. I swear, I had no idea. He never wore a ring when he was with me. He said he didn't believe in rings, that they were symbols for other people, and our love didn't need symbols." She laughed bitterly. "I believed every word. I believed everything he said." Elena looked down at her own hand, at the platinum wedding band she'd worn for 15 years. The band Michael had slipped on her finger while vowing to love her, honor her, and cherish only her until death. He had lied. To both of them. To everyone. "There's something else you should know," Rachel said hesitantly. "Michael left documents with me. Property deeds. Business ownership papers. He told me if anything ever happened to him, everything he'd put in my name would belong to me and the children. He said." She paused, swallowing hard. "He said I should never fight anyone over his estate. That what he'd given me was enough." Elena's blood ran cold. "He gave you properties. A commercial building downtown. A small tech startup he was developing. And the house we live in." Rachel met Elena's eyes. "I didn't want to believe he had another family. But now I understand. He was protecting both sides. Or maybe." Her voice broke again. "Maybe he was just protecting himself." The two women stood facing each other across Michael's grave as darkness fell around them. Two wives. Two lives. One dead man's web of lies. Elena's mind raced with questions, but one thought rose above all the others. She needed to see everything. The house. The children. The documents. She needed concrete proof that her entire marriage had been built on lies. "Take me there," Elena said suddenly. "To your house. Show me everything." Rachel's eyes widened. "What? Now?" "Yes, now." Elena's voice was firm. "If what you're saying is true, I need to see it with my own eyes. I need to understand what Michael did." Rachel studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But please, please don't upset my sons. They've already lost their father. They don't need more pain." The drive to Coral Gables was silent except for the GPS directions. Elena followed Rachel's car, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Every red light felt like an eternity. Every turn brought her closer to a truth she wasn't sure she wanted to face. The neighborhood was upscale but not ostentatious. Tree-lined streets with well-maintained homes, children's bicycles in driveways, families visible through lit windows. Normal. Peaceful. The kind of place where secrets hid behind white picket fences and friendly waves. Rachel's house was a 2-story Spanish-style villa with a red tile roof and cream-colored stucco walls. A small garden bloomed in the front yard, and a swing set was visible in the back. As they parked, Elena saw 2 small boys playing in the driveway with toy cars. Her heart clenched. Marcus and Mason. Michael's sons. The boys looked up as the women approached. The older one, Marcus, ran to Rachel and hugged her legs. "Mommy, you were gone so long." "I'm sorry, baby," Rachel said, stroking his hair. "Mommy needed to take care of something." She glanced at Elena nervously. This is a friend of Daddy's. Can you say hello?" Marcus looked at Elena with Michael's eyes, warm brown, curious, intelligent. "Hello," he said politely. Elena's throat tightened. She managed a small smile. "Hello, Marcus." The younger boy, Mason, hung back shyly, peeking from behind his brother. He clutched a toy airplane in his small hands, an exact replica of Michael's private jet. The same jet that had crashed into the ocean, killing him and 3 crew members. "Come inside," Rachel said quietly, leading the way. The interior of the house was comfortable and lived in. Children's toys scattered across the living room floor. Family photos covered the walls, Rachel and Michael at a beach, the boys on Michael's shoulders, everyone smiling and laughing. In every picture, Michael looked genuinely happy, not like a man living a double life but like a man who'd found peace. That hurt most of all. Rachel settled the boys in front of the television with cartoons, then led Elena to a home office down the hall. She opened a filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. "Here," Rachel said, placing it on the desk. "Everything he gave me." Elena opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were property deeds, all bearing Michael's signature, the same distinctive scroll she'd seen thousands of times. A commercial building on Brickell Avenue worth millions. A tech startup called Next Gen Solutions with Rachel listed as majority shareholder. The deed to this house, transferred to Rachel's name 3 years ago. "There's more," Rachel said softly. She pulled out another envelope. Michael insisted on paternity tests. He said he wanted everything documented properly in case anything happened to him. Elena unfolded the laboratory report. Her eyes scanned the scientific jargon until she found the conclusion. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Michael James Martinez is the biological father of Marcus Daniel Martinez and Mason Thomas Martinez. The paper fluttered from Elena's hands. It was real. All of it. Michael had built an entire second family, documented everything legally, and hidden it from her for years. "How?" Elena whispered. "How did he manage this? How did I not know?" Rachel sat down heavily, one hand on her pregnant belly. "He was careful. Obsessively careful. He never took calls when he was with me. He had a separate phone for when he was here. He never posted photos on social media. He told me it was for security, that successful people had to protect their families from publicity and potential threats." Elena thought about all the business trips Michael had taken. The weekend conferences. The late nights at the office. She'd never questioned any of it because she'd trusted him completely. And because she'd been so consumed with her own pain. The endless cycle of failed fertility treatments, the disappointment, the grief of childlessness. Had Michael used her pain as cover for his lies? "There's something I need to tell you," Elena said, her voice hollow. "Michael left a will. A legal, official will filed with attorneys and the court. In that will, I'm named as his sole heir. Everything goes to me, the penthouse, the company shares, the investments, all of it." Rachel's face paled. But he told me." "He lied to you too," Elena finished. "He gave you these properties, yes. But the bulk of his estate, the real wealth, he left to me. Either he planned to change his will and never got around to it, or—" She paused, the realization dawning. "Or he never intended for you to have more than what he'd already given you." The two women stared at each other, both victims of the same man's deception. Just as Elena was about to speak again, a loud banging erupted at the front door. Both women jumped. The boys looked up from their cartoons, fear crossing their small faces. "Open this door," a man's voice shouted from outside. "I know someone's in there. We need to talk about Michael's estate." Elena's blood ran cold. She recognized that voice. David Martinez, Michael's older brother. Rachel rushed to the living room and scooped up Mason, who had started crying. Marcus clung to her leg. "Who is that?" she whispered, panic in her voice. "Michael's brother," Elena replied, moving toward the door. "Let me handle this." "No, don't," Rachel pleaded. "He sounds angry." But Elena was already unlocking the door. If David had found this place, there was no point in hiding. Better to face whatever was coming head-on. David burst through the door the moment it opened, followed by 2 men Elena didn't recognize, probably lawyers or associates. David's face was red with rage, his expensive suit rumpled as if he'd been driving frantically around the city. "I knew it," David shouted, pointing at Elena. "I knew you'd come here. You couldn't just leave things alone, could you?" "David, calm down," Elena said firmly, blocking his path. There are children here. Children. David's laugh was bitter and harsh. Yes, children. My brother's real heirs. The ones who actually carry his blood. Not you, the barren wife who gave him nothing for 15 years. The words hit Elena like a slap, but she kept her face composed. Behind her, she heard Rachel gasp. How dare you speak to her like that, Rachel said, stepping forward despite her fear. Mason was still in her arms, his face buried in her shoulder. David's eyes shifted to Rachel, and his expression softened slightly, but only slightly. You must be Rachel, the mother of Michael's children. He moved closer, ignoring Elena entirely now. I'm David Martinez, Michael's brother and the executor of family interests. I'm here to ensure my nephews get what they deserve. What are you talking about? Rachel asked, confused. David pulled out a folded document from his jacket. This is a petition I'm filing with the court tomorrow morning. I'm challenging Michael's will on the grounds that it was made before he had children, before his circumstances changed. I'm arguing that the bulk of his estate should go to his biological heirs. Elena felt her anger rising. That will is ironclad, David. It was updated just 2 years ago, notarized, and filed properly. You have no legal grounds. We'll see what the judge says, David sneered. Especially when they hear how you knew about this woman and these children and tried to hide them from the probate court. That's a lie. Elena shot back. I just found out today. Can you prove that? David interrupted. Or will it be your word against mine? I'll tell the court you've known for months. That you've been trying to cut Michael's real family out of their inheritance. Rachel's voice shook as she spoke. Stop it. Please. This isn't what Michael wanted. He told me specifically not to fight over his estate. He said what he'd given me was enough. David's face twisted with something between pity and contempt. And you believed him? You actually believed that a man as wealthy as my brother would leave you with just a few properties and expect you to raise his children on that? It's more than most people have, Rachel replied quietly. It's nothing compared to what he left her, David said, gesturing angrily at Elena. The penthouse alone is worth $30 million. The company shares? Over $200 million. The investment portfolio? Another $100 million. And you got what? Maybe $20 million total in properties. He shook his head. My nephews deserve half of everything. They're his flesh and blood. Elena's mind was reeling. David was going to drag this into an ugly court battle. He was going to air all of Michael's secrets publicly. The media would have a field day. Tech billionaire's secret family revealed would be plastered across every news outlet. Her reputation would be destroyed. The company's stock would plummet. Michael's legacy would be reduced to scandal and gossip. And these two innocent boys would be at the center of it all. David, Elena said, forcing her voice to stay level, fighting in court helps no one. We can work this out privately. There's nothing to work out, David snapped. Either you agree to split everything 50-50 with Rachel and the children, or I'll see you in court. And trust me, Elena, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of woman you are, the kind who would deny innocent children their birthright. Marcus started crying now too, overwhelmed by the shouting. Rachel tried to comfort both boys while supporting her pregnant belly. She looked exhausted and frightened. Elena made a decision in that moment. Get out, David. What? I said get out of this house. You're scaring the children, and you have no right to be here. David stepped closer, his face inches from hers. You can't throw me out. I'm family. This isn't your house, Elena replied coldly. It belongs to Rachel. And she wants you gone. Don't you, Rachel? Rachel nodded quickly. Yes. Please leave. One of the men with David spoke for the first time. Mr. Martinez, perhaps we should go. We can continue this through proper legal channels. David glared at Elena with pure hatred. Fine. But this isn't over. I'll see you in court, sister-in-law. And when I'm done, you'll wish you'd been generous when you had the chance. He stormed out, his associates following. The door slammed behind them. In the sudden silence, Elena could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Rachel sank onto the couch, still holding both crying boys. She looked up at Elena with tears streaming down her face. What are we going to do? Rachel whispered. Elena stared at the closed door, her mind racing through options, strategies, and consequences. David wasn't bluffing. He would take this to court. He would fight dirty. And he would use these children as weapons in his battle. Unless Elena could stop him first. Elena sat in her car outside Rachel's house for a full 10 minutes before she could bring herself to drive. Her hands shook as she gripped the steering wheel, David's threats echoing in her mind. She needed to think clearly, strategically. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about truth, justice, and protecting innocent children from becoming pawns in a family war. Her phone buzzed. A text from her attorney, Patricia Chen. Elena, we have a serious problem. Call me immediately. Emergency. Elena's stomach dropped. She dialed the number, and Patricia picked up on the first ring. Where are you? Patricia asked, her normally calm voice tight with stress. Still in Coral Gables, Elena replied. What's wrong? David Martinez filed an emergency motion 30 minutes ago. He's claiming the will is invalid and that you've been hiding assets from the probate court. He's asking for an immediate freeze on all estate accounts and a court-ordered investigation into your finances. Elena closed her eyes, fighting off a wave of nausea. He works fast. That's not all, Patricia continued. He's brought in Marcus Webb as his attorney. Webb. Elena's eyes snapped open. Marcus Webb was one of the most ruthless probate attorneys in Florida, famous for destroying opposing parties with aggressive tactics and media manipulation. How can David even afford Webb? He can't, Patricia said. Which means someone else is funding this. My guess. Michael's business partners who want to see the company destabilized. If they can create enough chaos around the inheritance, they can push for a forced sale or buyout at a reduced price. Elena's mind raced. She'd been so focused on the emotional devastation of Michael's betrayal that she hadn't considered the business implications. Martinez Technologies was worth over $500 million. With Michael gone and his estate in dispute, the company was vulnerable. What do we do? Elena asked. We fight back, Patricia replied firmly. But I need you to be completely honest with me. When did you first learn about Rachel and the children? Today. This evening. I went to the memorial garden and found her crying at Michael's grave. Can you prove that? Elena thought for a moment. The cemetery has security cameras. They'll show when I arrived and that I'd never been there at the same time as Rachel before today. Good. That helps. But Elena, there's something else you need to know. Patricia paused, and Elena could hear papers shuffling. I did some digging after you called earlier. Michael's financial records show regular wire transfers to an offshore account, about $50,000 a month for the past 5 years. $50,000 a month. Elena's mind reeled at the figure. That's $600,000 a year. To Rachel. No, that's the strange part. The amounts going to Rachel for house expenses and child support are separate and fully documented. These offshore transfers went somewhere else. To another account in the Cayman Islands. Elena felt the ground shift beneath her again. Another account. Another secret. Do we know whose account? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. I'm working on it. But Elena, if Michael was hiding money offshore, David might try to use that against you. He could claim you knew about it and were planning to conceal it from the estate. But I didn't know. I don't know anything anymore. Elena's voice cracked. Everything I thought I knew about Michael, about our marriage, about our life together. It was all lies. Patricia's voice softened. I know this is devastating. But you need to stay strong. We have a hearing tomorrow morning at 10. The judge will decide whether to freeze the accounts. You need to be there. And you need to be prepared for David to make this ugly. It's already ugly, Elena said bitterly. It's going to get worse before it gets better, Patricia warned. David will attack your character. He'll paint you as greedy, cold, and vindictive. He'll use the fact that you couldn't have children as evidence that you're trying to punish Michael's real family. Elena wiped away angry tears. Let him try. I'm not the villain here. Michael is the one who lied to everyone. A dead man can't defend himself, Patricia reminded her gently. Which means David will rewrite Michael's story to suit his purposes. You need to be ready for that. After they hung up, Elena sat in the darkness of her car, watching lights go on and off in nearby houses. Normal families having normal evenings, dinner, homework, bedtime routines. Simple lives unburdened by betrayal and billion-dollar court battles. Her phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Martinez? A woman's voice, professional but urgent. My name is Jennifer Santos. I'm a forensic accountant, and I've been reviewing your late husband's financial records. I think you need to know something about those offshore accounts. Elena's heart rate spiked. How did you get my number? Who hired you? No one hired me, Jennifer replied. I worked for your husband. He hired me 6 months ago to audit his own accounts. He said he wanted everything documented properly before he updated his estate plan. But Mrs. Martinez, what I found. You need to see this. Can we meet? Meet? When? Tonight. Now. This can't wait until tomorrow's hearing. Elena checked the time. 9:47 p.m. Where? There's a coffee shop on Miracle Mile that's open until midnight. Café Versailles. I'll be in the back corner booth. Please come alone, and please don't tell anyone about this call. Not even your attorney. Not yet. The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, mind racing. This could be a trap. It could be someone working with David trying to get information from her. But what if it wasn't? What if this Jennifer Santos really did have information that could change everything? She started the car and headed toward Coral Gables. Café Versailles was a Miami institution, famous for its Cuban coffee and late-night crowds. Even at this hour, the place buzzed with energy. Elderly men playing dominoes, families sharing flan, couples lingering over cortaditos. The warm lighting and rich aroma of roasted coffee beans created an atmosphere that felt almost safe, almost normal. Elena spotted Jennifer Santos immediately. She sat alone in a corner booth, a laptop open in front of her, nervously checking her phone every few seconds. She was younger than Elena expected, maybe early 30s, with dark-rimmed glasses and her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wore business casual attire despite the late hour, and her expression was serious, almost haunted. Mrs. Martinez, Jennifer said quietly as Elena approached, gesturing to the seat across from her. Thank you for coming. Elena slid into the booth, her eyes scanning the cafe for anyone who might be watching. You said this was urgent. That it couldn't wait. It can't. Jennifer turned her laptop so Elena could see the screen, which displayed rows upon rows of financial transactions. I need to show you what your husband was really doing with his money. Before you continue, Elena interrupted, I need to know who you are and why I should trust you. Jennifer nodded, seeming to respect the caution. Fair enough. I've been a forensic accountant for 8 years. I specialize in tracking complex financial transactions, usually for law enforcement or private litigation. 6 months ago, Michael Martinez contacted me directly. Not through his company, but personally. He said he needed someone to audit his accounts because he suspected someone was embezzling from him. Embezzling? Elena frowned. He never mentioned anything to me about that. Because there was no embezzlement, Jennifer said. I realized that pretty quickly. The money wasn't being stolen. Michael was moving it himself, deliberately, systematically, for years. When I told him this, She paused, choosing her words carefully. He asked me to document everything. Every transaction, every account, every asset. He said he wanted a complete picture before he died. Elena's breath caught. Before he died. He knew. Jennifer's expression turned somber. I don't know if he knew he was going to die specifically, but he definitely knew something was coming. He talked about legacy, about making sure things were handled correctly after he was gone, about protecting the people he loved from each other. From each other, Elena repeated bitterly. Did he say who those people were? No. He was vague about personal details. But Mrs. Martinez, when I learned about the plane crash, I knew I had to complete the audit. And what I found. She scrolled through screens of data. Your husband wasn't just supporting two families. He was preparing for a war. Elena leaned forward, her hands gripping the edge of the table. What do you mean? Jennifer pulled up a spreadsheet. These offshore accounts everyone's talking about? There are 4 of them, not 1. Each contains significant assets, stocks, bonds, real estate holdings, cryptocurrency. Combined, they're worth approximately $350 million. Elena felt her vision blur. $350 million. That was more than half of Michael's total estimated worth. Why would he hide that much money? She asked. That's what I couldn't figure out at first, Jennifer admitted. But then I traced where the money came from and when it was moved. It started 8 years ago, right after Michael's company went public and he became genuinely wealthy. He began systematically moving assets into these accounts, always in amounts small enough not to trigger attention but consistent enough to add up to a fortune. She pulled up another document. But here's the interesting part. 3 months ago, Michael changed all the account beneficiaries. Before that, the accounts were in his name only. After that. She turned the laptop again so Elena could see clearly. After that, each account was designated for a specific person. Elena stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Account 1, Caribbean Holdings beneficiary, Elena Martinez. Wife Account 2, Pacific Trust beneficiary, Rachel Morrison, partner. Account 3, Atlantic Investment beneficiary, Marcus and Mesa Martinez. Sons Account 4, Continental Assets beneficiary, unborn child of Rachel Morrison. Elena couldn't breathe. He divided it. Not equally, Jennifer said, pulling up the specific amounts. Account 1 has $150 million. Account 2 has $75 million. Account 3 has $75 million. Account 4 has $50 million. He made sure everyone would be taken care of, but he prioritized you. Why? Elena whispered. If he loved Rachel enough to have children with her, why leave me more? Jennifer shook her head. I can't answer that. I'm just an accountant. But there's more. She pulled out a physical envelope from her bag. 3 months ago, Michael gave me this. He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you personally. He was very specific. Only to you, only in person, only after his death. Elena took the envelope with shaking hands. Her name was written on it in Michael's distinctive handwriting. What is it? I don't know. I never opened it. But Mrs. Martinez, you need to see what's inside before tomorrow's court hearing. And you need to decide whether to tell your attorney about these offshore accounts. Why wouldn't I tell her? Jennifer's expression turned grave. Because the moment you reveal these accounts exist, they become part of the probate case. David will fight for them. Rachel's attorneys, when she gets attorneys, will fight for them. The court will freeze them during litigation, which could take years. But right now, as they stand, they're outside the probate estate. Michael set them up that way deliberately. Elena stared at the envelope, then at the laptop screen showing millions of dollars her husband had hidden from everyone, including her. He was protecting us, she said slowly. All of us. From David. From the company vultures. From each other. Maybe, Jennifer agreed. Or maybe he was protecting himself from having to make impossible choices while he was alive. Elena opened the envelope. Elena's hands trembled as she pulled the letter from the envelope. It was handwritten, not typed, not dictated, but carefully written in Michael's own hand on thick, expensive stationery. The sight of his handwriting, so familiar yet now so painful, made her eyes burn with tears. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for leaving you. I'm sorry for the pain I know you must be feeling. But most of all, I'm sorry for the secrets I kept and the lies I told. I need you to know that everything I did, every choice I made, started from a place of love for you. But somewhere along the way, I became a coward. Instead of facing hard truths, I built walls. Instead of making difficult choices, I tried to have everything. I told myself I was protecting people when really, I was protecting myself from their pain. Elena, you were my first love, my true partner, the woman I chose when I had nothing. We built our life together from scratch. Every success I had, you were there. Every risk I took, you supported me. When the doctors told us you couldn't have children, my heart broke. Not because I needed children, but because I saw your pain and couldn't fix it. Elena paused, wiping tears from her cheeks. Jennifer sat quietly across from her, giving her space. I should have been honest with you about how much I wanted to be a father. I should have suggested adoption or other options. But I couldn't bear to add more weight to the pain you already carried. So I lied. I told you I didn't need children. I told you that you were enough. And you were enough, Elena. Please believe that. But I also craved fatherhood with an intensity one didn't even understand until I met Rachel. It started innocently. She was a consultant on a project. We talked, we connected, and one thing led to another. I told myself it was just an affair, something temporary. But then she got pregnant, and everything changed. When I held Marcus for the first time, I felt something I'd never felt before. It was overwhelming and terrifying and beautiful. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I leave? Why didn't I choose one life over the other? The truth is, I couldn't. I loved you both, Elena. Differently but deeply. You were my anchor, my home, my history. Rachel was my second chance, my secret dream, my future. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know what I did was unforgivable. I destroyed two women I loved because I was too weak to be honest with either of you. I let you believe in a marriage that wasn't complete. I let Rachel believe in a relationship that wasn't real. By the time you read this, you'll know about the offshore accounts. Jennifer will have shown you how I divided everything. I tried to be fair, Elena, but I also tried to honor what we built together. You get the most because you were there first, because you earned it, because without you, none of this wealth would exist. But please, I'm begging you, don't let David or anyone else turn this into a war. Rachel is a good woman. She didn't know about you. The children are innocent. They're my children, Elena, and I love them as much as I loved you. I'm leaving you with all the power. You can destroy Rachel and the children financially and legally. You can take everything and leave them with nothing. David will encourage you to do exactly that. He'll tell you that you deserve it all, that blood and loyalty matter most. But Elena, I know your heart. I know your strength. I know your capacity for compassion even when you've been wounded. That's why I'm leaving this decision to you. The offshore accounts give you options. You can keep them secret and let everyone fight over the probate estate, protecting these funds for later. Or you can reveal them and let the court divide everything. Or you can do what I hope you'll do. Use them to protect everyone I loved. I don't deserve mercy. I don't deserve forgiveness. But my children deserve a chance at life. Rachel deserves security. And you, my Elena, deserve peace. Whatever you decide, know that I loved you. Not enough, not well enough, not honestly enough, But I loved you with everything I had. I'm sorry I wasn't the man you deserved. Forever yours, Michael. P.S. The PIN to access the offshore accounts is our wedding date. 041509. Jennifer has all the account information. Trust her. She's honest, thorough, and she won't judge you for whatever you decide. Elena set the letter down, her entire body shaking. Around her, the cafe continued its cheerful buzz. People laughing, coffee cups clinking, music playing softly in the background. But in her corner booth, Elena felt completely alone with the weight of impossible choices. He put it all on you, Jennifer said softly. The decision. The power. The burden. Elena looked up. Even in death, he couldn't face the consequences of his choices. No, Jennifer agreed. He couldn't. But he did try to set things up so that everyone could survive. These accounts, the way he structured them, it's not perfect, but it's more than most people in his situation would do. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Elena asked bitterly. That my lying husband was slightly less selfish than he could have been? Jennifer didn't answer. There was no answer. Elena checked her phone. 11:43 p.m. In less than 11 hours, she would be standing in court. David would be there, ready to destroy her reputation. Rachel would be there, vulnerable and pregnant. Lawyers would be there, ready to fight over every dollar. And she would have to decide, in that moment, in that courtroom, what kind of person she wanted to be. The Miami-Dade County Courthouse stood imposing in the morning sun, its white columns and marble steps a symbol of justice and order. Elena arrived 30 minutes early, wearing a simple black dress. Elegant, respectful, powerful. Patricia met her at the entrance, briefcase in hand, looking alert despite the early hour. Are you ready? Patricia asked. Elena thought about Michael's letter, still folded in her purse. As ready as I'll ever be. They walked through security and made their way to courtroom 7B on the 3rd floor. David was already there, sitting with Marcus Webb and his team of associates. He looked confident, almost smug. When he saw Elena, his expression hardened. Rachel arrived moments later, noticeably alone. She wore a simple maternity dress and moved slowly, her hand supporting her belly. Elena felt a pang of sympathy despite everything. All rise, the bailiff called. The Honorable Judge Martha Rodriguez presiding. Judge Rodriguez entered, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair, sharp eyes behind reading glasses, and an expression that suggested she'd seen every trick in the book and wouldn't tolerate nonsense. Be seated, she said, settling into her chair and reviewing the case file. This is an emergency hearing regarding the estate of Michael James Martinez, deceased. We have a motion to freeze estate assets filed by David Martinez, brother of the deceased. Let's proceed. Marcus Webb stood, his voice smooth and practiced. Your Honor, we're here today because of a serious miscarriage of justice. Mr. Martinez had 3 children, 2 sons and an unborn daughter, who are being systematically excluded from his estate by his widow, Elena Martinez. Elena's lawyer stood immediately. Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Martinez just learned of these children's existence yesterday. She hasn't excluded anyone. I'll hear arguments from both sides, Judge Rodriguez said. Mr. Webb, continue. Webb walked to the center of the courtroom, performing for the judge. Your Honor, the will currently controlling this estate was executed 6 years ago, long before Mr. Martinez had children. It names Elena Martinez as sole heir, which made sense at the time. But circumstances changed dramatically. Mr. Martinez became a father. He established a second household. He supported those children financially and emotionally for years. He pulled out photographs, Marcus and Mason at various ages, Michael smiling beside them. These are not illegitimate children from a casual affair. These were Mr. Martinez's beloved sons. He was involved in their lives, attended their birthdays, helped with homework. He was their father in every meaningful sense. Judge Rodriguez studied the photos. And the mother? Ms. Morrison, is it? Rachel stood shakily. Yes, Your Honor. Did Mr. Martinez marry you? Rachel hesitated. We had a ceremony. With friends and witnesses. But I recently learned it wasn't. It wasn't legally binding because he was already married. Webb jumped in. Which is precisely why we're here. Ms. Morrison believed she was married. She believed her children were legitimate heirs. She had every reason to expect they would be provided for properly. But instead, Mr. Martinez left everything to his first wife, excluding his own children from their inheritance. Except, Patricia stood, Mr. Martinez also gave substantial assets directly to Ms. Morrison during his lifetime. Properties worth approximately $20 million. He established trust accounts for the children. He provided ongoing support. He made provision for them outside of the probate estate. Webb scoffed. $20 million sounds like a lot, but Mr. Martinez was worth over $500 million. These children are entitled to equal shares with the surviving spouse. A 50-50 split would be fair. Fair. Patricia's voice rose. Mr. Martinez made his wishes clear in a legal binding will. He updated it regularly. If he wanted to change it, he had multiple opportunities to do so. Judge Rodriguez held up her hand. Before we continue, I want to hear from Mrs. Martinez directly. Approach the bench. Elena stood, her legs steadier than she expected. She walked to the witness stand and was sworn in. Mrs. Martinez, Judge Rodriguez said, when did you learn about your husband's other family? Yesterday, Your Honor. I went to visit his grave and found Ms. Morrison there, crying and talking about her sons. Until that moment, I had no idea they existed. And what was your initial reaction? Elena took a breath. Shock. Betrayal. Anger. Confusion. Every emotion you'd expect when you discover your entire marriage was built on lies. And now, after having time to process, this was it. The moment. Elena could destroy Rachel with a few words. She could claim the full estate, freeze Rachel out, and let David fight for scraps. Or, Elena looked at Rachel, sitting alone, one hand on her pregnant belly. She looked at the photos of Marcus and Mason on the evidence table. She thought about Michael's letter. His cowardice. His love. His impossible choices. Your Honor, Elena said slowly, I've had less than 24 hours to absorb this information, but I've learned some things. My husband was many things. Brilliant, driven, generous, flawed. He made terrible choices. He hurt everyone who loved him. But he also tried in his imperfect way to take care of people. She pulled an envelope from her purse. I'd like to present evidence to the court. Documents that will clarify Mr. Martinez's final wishes. Patricia looked startled. Webb leaned forward. Judge Rodriguez gestured for Elena to continue. My husband established 4 offshore accounts containing $350 million. These accounts are outside the probate estate. He designated specific beneficiaries for each account, including me, Ms. Morrison, and all 3 of his children. The courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. David's face turned red. Webb looked like he'd been slapped. Judge Rodriguez banged her gavel sharply. Order. I will have order in this courtroom. The murmuring subsided, but the tension remained electric. Marcus Webb was already on his feet, his face red with indignation. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We had no notice of these alleged accounts. We request time to verify. Sit down, Mr. Webb, Judge Rodriguez said coolly. Mrs. Martinez, approach with your attorney and this evidence. Elena and Patricia walked forward together. Elena handed over the folder Jennifer had given her, complete documentation of all 4 offshore accounts, including beneficiary designations, account balances, and the timeline of when they were established. Judge Rodriguez studied the documents in silence for several minutes. The courtroom waited, every person holding their breath. Finally, She looked up. These accounts are properly established and documented. They are held in offshore trusts that are legally separate from the probate estate. She turned to Webb. Mr. Webb, did your client know about these accounts?
No, Your Honor,
Webb stammered. This is the first we're hearing of them. Ms. Morrison? The judge looked at Rachel. Did you know? Rachel shook her head. No, Your Honor. Michael never mentioned them. Judge Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. So we have a situation where the deceased established substantial assets outside of probate, designated specific beneficiaries, and told no one. Interesting. She looked at David. Mr. Martinez, David Martinez, do you have any claim to these offshore accounts? David stood quickly. Your Honor, as my brother's next of kin and the representative of family interests. That's not what I asked, Judge Rodriguez interrupted. Are you named as a beneficiary in any of these accounts? David's jaw clenched.
No, but...
Then you have no standing regarding these funds. They are not part of the probate estate, and they already have designated beneficiaries. She turned to Elena. Mrs. Martinez, help me understand your position here. You're revealing these accounts even though it potentially reduces what you might receive through probate. Why? Elena stood tall. Because, Your Honor, my husband was a coward who couldn't face the consequences of his choices, so he left all the difficult decisions to me. He thought by splitting money into different accounts and making me the executor of his estate, he could avoid responsibility even after death. The courtroom was silent, hanging on every word. But I'm not going to play his game, Elena continued. These children deserve security. Ms. Morrison deserves security. They didn't ask to be part of this mess. They're victims of my husband's deception just like I am. So you're advocating for them to receive these designated funds? Judge Rodriguez asked. I'm advocating for honesty, Your Honor. Yes, Michael left me more than he left anyone else. Yes, I was his legal wife. Yes, I built that company with him from nothing. But these children carry his DNA. They lost their father. The unborn baby will never know him. Ms. Morrison believed she was building a life with him. Elena's voice wavered slightly but remained strong. I could keep these accounts secret and fight for everything through probate. I could make their lives miserable because I'm angry about what Michael did. But that would make me as selfish as he was. And I refuse to become that person. Judge Rodriguez studied Elena for a long moment. That's a remarkably mature position, Mrs. Martinez. More mature than many people would manage in your circumstances. She looked down at the documents again, then at everyone in the courtroom. Here's what we're going to do. The offshore accounts will remain with their designated beneficiaries as Mr. Martinez intended. They are outside probate jurisdiction, properly established, and legally binding. Webb started to object, but Judge Rodriguez silenced him with a look. As for the probate estate, she continued, the will stands. Mrs. Martinez is the legal heir. However, given the existence of minor children who were financially dependent on the deceased, I'm ordering that a trust be established from the probate estate to provide for the children's education, healthcare, and reasonable living expenses until they reach age 25. She turned to Elena. Mrs. Martinez, the trust will be funded with 5% of the total probate estate, approximately $25 million. The trustee will have discretion over disbursements. Are you willing to accept this arrangement? Elena didn't hesitate. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Morrison, do you accept these terms? Rachel nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Judge Rodriguez looked at David. Mr. Martinez, do you have any remaining objections? David looked like he wanted to argue, but Marcus Webb put a hand on his arm and shook his head. Fighting this would only make David look worse. No, Your Honor, David said through gritted teeth. Good. Judge Rodriguez signed several documents. The estate is hereby distributed according to the will, with the addition of the children's trust as specified. All accounts are unfrozen. This matter is closed. She banged the gavel. Court is adjourned. As people began standing and gathering their belongings, Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase Michael's betrayal. But it was fair. It was right. Rachel approached her slowly. Elena, I don't know what to say. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Elena replied quietly. Not for Michael. Not even for you. For those children who deserve a chance at life without being punished for their father's mistakes. Rachel's voice shook. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. They stood facing each other, two women bound together by one man's lies, now choosing to move forward with dignity instead of hatred. David stormed past them without a word, his face dark with rage. But Elena didn't care. She'd won what mattered, her integrity, her peace of mind, and the knowledge that she'd done the right thing even when it was hard. 3 months later, Elena sat in her penthouse overlooking Biscayne Bay, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The view was stunning as always, but the silence that once comforted her now felt heavy. Too empty. Too quiet. Her phone rang. Rachel's name appeared on the screen. Over the past months, they'd spoken occasionally. Brief, awkward conversations about legal documents and trust paperwork. But this time, Rachel's voice sounded different. Lighter. Elena? I hope I'm not bothering you. No, not at all, Elena replied. Is everything okay? Yes, actually. Better than okay. Rachel paused. The baby came this morning. A girl. 7 pounds. 3 ounces. Completely healthy. Elena felt her throat tighten. That's wonderful, Rachel. Congratulations. I was wondering. Rachel's voice became uncertain. Would you like to meet her? I know it's a lot to ask, but the boys keep asking about you. They remember you from that day, and Marcus drew you a picture. Elena's eyes burned with tears. He did. It's of our 2 houses connected by a rainbow, Rachel said softly. He said it's because you're the reason we don't have to fight anymore. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. I'd love to meet her, she whispered. When? Whenever you're ready. I'm home now. The boys are excited and driving me crazy, so fair warning. Elena laughed. A real laugh, the first in months. I'll be there in 30 minutes. She drove to Coral Gables with a gift bag on the passenger seat, a hand-stitched baby blanket she'd bought from a local artisan, soft pink with delicate embroidery. She'd spent hours choosing it, wanting something meaningful but not presumptuous. Rachel's house looked different in the late afternoon light. Warmer, more inviting. Children's chalk drawings decorated the driveway. A new swing hung from the big tree in the front yard. As Elena parked, the front door flew open and Marcus ran out, waving a piece of paper. Miss Elena. Look what I made. Elena knelt down as he reached her, studying the crayon drawing with genuine interest. 2 houses, one larger than the other, connected by a bright rainbow with clouds on either side. This is beautiful, Marcus. Did you draw this all by yourself? He nodded proudly. Mommy helped with the rainbow because I couldn't get the colors right. But I did the houses and the clouds and the people. Elena looked closer. Stick figures stood outside each house, a woman at each door, and between them, on the rainbow itself, 3 small figures holding hands. Who are these? She asked, pointing to the children on the rainbow. That's me and Mason and Jessica, Marcus explained. We get to walk between both houses because you and Mommy are friends now. Elena's heart clenched. Yes, she said softly. We are. Rachel appeared at the door, looking tired but happy, with Mason clinging to her leg and a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket in her arms. Marcus, give Miss Elena a chance to come inside before you talk her ear off. Elena stood and walked to the door. Rachel stepped aside to let her in, And there, in the familiar living room, Elena got her first look at Jessica. She was perfect. Tiny nose, rosebud lips, dark hair soft as silk. Her eyes were closed, but her little hand poked out from the blanket, fingers curled into a fist. "Would you like to hold her?" Rachel asked. Elena nodded, not trusting her voice. Rachel gently transferred the baby into Elena's arms, and the weight, so light, so precious, settled against her chest. For 15 years, Elena had mourned the children she couldn't have. She'd grieved every negative pregnancy test, every failed treatment, every pitying look from relatives. She'd carried that loss like a stone in her heart. But now, holding this baby, Michael's daughter, yes, but also just a beautiful, innocent child, Elena felt something shift. Not healing completely. Not forgetting the pain. But maybe beginning to let go of the bitterness. "She's beautiful," Elena whispered. "She has Michael's eyes," Rachel said quietly. "When she opens them, you'll see. It's like looking at him." They spent the afternoon together. Elena, Rachel, and the 3 children. They ate dinner at the kitchen table, watched Marcus and Mason put on an elaborate puppet show, and took turns holding Jessica when she fussed. It felt surreal but also natural, as if they'd been doing this for years instead of just beginning. As evening approached and Elena prepared to leave, Rachel walked her to the car. "Thank you," Rachel said. "For everything. For not hating me. For helping the children. For being kind when you had every reason not to be." Elena turned to face her. "I want to ask you something, and please be honest. Did you love him? Really love him?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Yes. I loved him completely. I thought he was my future, my forever. Learning he lied about everything, it destroyed something in me." "Me too," Elena admitted. "I keep wondering if anything he said to me was real. If any of it mattered." "I think it was all real," Rachel said slowly. "I think he loved both of us. I think he was just too weak to choose, too selfish to be honest. He wanted everything, and he took it, and he left us to clean up the mess." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "I'd like to stay in touch," Elena said. "For the children. And maybe for us too. We're connected now, whether we wanted to be or not." Rachel smiled. "I'd like that." As Elena drove home, the sunset fading to twilight, she felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not for romance or marriage or the life she'd lost. But hope that she could build something new. Something honest. Something real. Michael had left her wealth, property, and a company. But more importantly, he'd left her a choice, to become bitter or to become better. She chose better. 6 months later, Elena attended Jessica's christening. David was there too, subdued and polite, having finally accepted the situation. The children called Elena Aunt Elena now. She'd helped Marcus learn to ride a bike and taught Mason to count in Spanish. She'd also started a foundation in Michael's name, focused on supporting children in complex family situations. Because if Michael's lies could create anything positive, it would be helping other children navigate the messy realities of imperfect families. Standing in the church, watching Rachel hold Jessica at the altar, Elena realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't about Michael anymore. It wasn't about excusing what he'd done or pretending it didn't hurt. Forgiveness was about freeing herself from the prison of anger and bitterness. It was about choosing peace over revenge. It was about recognizing that while she couldn't control what Michael had done, she could absolutely control who she became because of it. And she chose to become someone even better than before. Stronger, wiser, more compassionate. The woman who'd stood frozen at a cemetery grave 3 months ago, destroyed by betrayal, had transformed into someone new. Not unmarked by pain, but not defined by it either. As she held Jessica after the ceremony, the baby's small hand wrapped around her finger, Elena whispered a promise. "You'll grow up surrounded by love. Real love. Honest love. The kind your father couldn't quite manage but dreamed of. We'll make sure of that." And looking around at Rachel, at the boys, at David who'd finally stopped fighting, at the community of family and friends who'd rallied around them all, Elena knew it was true. Michael's lies had tried to tear them apart. But in the end, they'd chosen something stronger: truth, compassion, and the radical act of forgiveness. The story wasn't the fairy tale Elena had believed she was living. But maybe, just maybe, it could still have a happy ending. The end. Thank you so much for watching this entire series. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible true life inspired stories. Like this video if Elena's journey moved you, and share it with someone who needs to hear a message about forgiveness and strength. Drop a comment below telling us, what would you have done in Elena's situation? Would you have been able to forgive? We read every single comment and love hearing your perspectives. And if you're binge watching, check out our playlist of similar stories about love, betrayal, and redemption. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Remember, life is complicated, families are messy, but choosing kindness, even when it's hard, is always worth it. See you in the next story. Red Heart.